It fell from the stars like a wounded god, flames trailing its descent, smoke painting the night. What remained of the escape pod was little more than twisted metal and cracked crystal, shielding a creature barely conscious, barely alive. Its massive, scaled form shook with every breath, each exhale a mix of smoke and blood. The once proud wings, capable of spanning cities, now hung torn and useless. Its side had been pierced by a jagged piece of its own armor. Red fluid pooled beneath it, seeping into unfamiliar earth soil. It was not a beast. It was not a mindless alien. It had a name, once spoken in star song, but now only pain remained. Its enemies, those who hunted rare bloodlines, gene harvesters from the outer rings, had done their work. Its kin were gone. Its world burned. This planet was never meant to be a destination, just a desperate waypoint in a long, failed escape. But now it was the last hope. Crawling from the wreck, claws digging into soft dirt, the dragon forced itself upright. Pain blinded it. One eye remained. Technology embedded along its body flickered, broken beyond repair. The translation node in its throat sparked, then died. It could not call out. It could only knock, crawl, bleed. It reached a road, strange, flat, and marked with glowing lines. Lights in the distance. Shelter, perhaps. It dragged its limbs forward. Trees whispered around it. A fox darted away. Even Earth's wildlife understood. Something unnatural now roamed its dark. The first house loomed. Small. Square. Alien. But there was warmth within. Through a window, a human sat at a glowing screen, sipping from a steaming cup. The dragon lifted a trembling claw and tapped. Once. Twice. The human turned. Eyes widened. The cup fell. A scream tore through the glass. Curtains drawn. Lights off. Silence returned. The dragon moved on. The pain was worse now. Its hind leg collapsed. It leaned on a fallen branch for support. Every breath was a gamble. A gamble to live, to not die nameless and hunted. The second house had music. A child's laughter. The dragon waited. It knocked again, gentler this time. The door cracked open. A man peered out, flashlight in hand. The light landed on the scaled face, the deep wound across the chest, the trembling form. He cursed. The door slammed harder than the first. On it went. The third door gave no reply. A religious symbol hung above it. The dragon knocked, and from inside came chanting, loud and frantic. It smelled burnt incense. By the fourth, its vision blurred. It saw only shapes. The fifth was blurred with sirens. Someone had already called emergency services. The sixth came with barking, a sharp bite at its tail. The dragon hissed, not in anger, but in hurt. Not once did it retaliate. Each door represented hope. Each one denied it. Not with malice, but fear. The creature understood fear. It had felt it itself, when its people were hunted. But here, it was alone, and there was no one left to fight for it. It began to crawl. Movement was harder now. More dragging than walking. Black spots filled the sky. The stars it once soared through now mocked it from above. The seventh house had lights, security cameras. A figure inside watched the screen, then turned away. Locked the door electronically. Never came to the window. The eighth was a warehouse. Empty. The dragon lay beside it for several minutes, hoping. Nothing. Ninth came and went. A man opened it, phone in hand, and without a word, snapped a picture, stepped back, closed the door, and posted it online. A monster on his porch. The likes came fast. The dragon, with nothing left, kept crawling. Body failing. Blood soaking the pavement behind it. It thought of its home, green skies, floating cities, kin who flew with laughter and spiral dances. Now silence, loss, and rejection. It collapsed finally in front of one last home. The 10th. The lights were dim. No sound. The dragon didn't bother to knock this time. One claw raised, faltered midair, then dropped. Its head rested on cool stone. Its eye blinked once. Then again, slower. A sigh. The stars above blurred once more. And just before it lost consciousness entirely, the 10th door creaked open. The air was colder now. Each breath the dragon took scraped through its throat like fire. Its limbs trembled as it pushed forward, body half limp, every joint screaming. The memory of the first rejection still lingered like a fresh wound, but survival demanded persistence. The second door came into view. A porch light buzzed overhead. Inside, the sound of boots pacing, a dog barking, and then the door swung open. A man, tall and rigid, holding a hunting rifle. He didn't hesitate. The moment his eyes met the dragon's, he fired. The shot grazed the shoulder, tearing fresh scales away. The dragon stumbled back, stumbled into the road, but refused to fall. No retaliation. It turned and limped on. The third house was lined with religious symbols. The dragon approached slower, weaker. This time, it tapped with its tail. A woman appeared behind a frosted window. Her face contorted in horror. She clutched across to her chest, knelt down, and began to pray. No words of comfort. Only fear of judgment. She never opened the door. By the fourth, its claws were too damaged to knock. It scraped its tail across the siding, leaving a mark that would outlive it if it died there. Inside, a voice shouted, warning it to leave. A weapon cocked. Lights turned off. It moved before the trigger could follow the sound. Fifth was smaller, less fortified. The dragon, shaking with effort, managed to claw the edge of the steps. A child opened the door briefly. Her gasp was quiet, curious, not afraid. But a hand yanked her back inside, followed by hurried footsteps, a slammed door, and the sound of many locks. It waited. No one returned. The sixth was fast. No conversation. The second it neared, a dog lunged from the bushes. Its teeth bit deep into the dragon's flank before being called off. The owner peered out, saw the blood, and shouted slurs. Mutant trash, he muttered before going back in. Seventh had sensors. Bright spotlights snapped on. A voice crackled from a speaker. Leave the premises immediately. You are not authorized. The dragon sat for a second, staring into the blinding light, before dragging its ruined wing behind it toward the next chance. The eighth was a research facility, unguarded from the outside. The dragon entered the yard, drew close. Cameras tracked every movement. No human face appeared. It rested briefly near a back wall, but the silence stretched too long. Surveillance without sympathy. Even curiosity chose not to act. By the ninth, the dragon's vision pulsed in and out. A tall fence surrounded the yard. It toppled over it, landing hard, more bones cracking under the pressure. The lights flicked on as the front door opened. A man in casual clothes stepped out, holding a smartphone. He looked surprised for a moment, then amused. Snapped a photo. Crazy costume. He laughed. The dragon coughed up dark fluid, leaving a trail on the concrete. The man backed away but didn't close the door. Stay there. I'm calling the news. Not help. Not aid. A story? The dragon pushed away from the porch. Bones scraped within skin. Its internal systems were shutting down. It could feel organ collapse. Its kind could survive much, but not this. Not the exhaustion, the exposure, the violence, the indifference. Each rejection had been different, yet they blurred together into the same conclusion: Earth was not ready. 9 times it had offered no threat, only need. 9 times it had been met with suspicion, rejection, violence, or exploitation. It did not understand every human word, but intent had always been clear. No refuge here. No sanctuary. Its legs finally gave. No amount of will could counteract the damage. It dragged itself with its front limbs alone, back legs trailing dead weight. The scales on its chest cracked, exposing soft flesh beneath. Each breath grew shallower, the heart rhythm uneven. It reached the edge of a narrow road and paused, one last glance toward the dark shapes ahead. Only one chance remained. Not a plan. Not hope. Just inevitability. The dragon was no longer seeking kindness. It was simply following instinct. One last door. And then, if it failed again, it would let go. There was no energy left to beg, to plead with gestures or eyes. Just motion. One more effort before surrender. As it moved forward, small insects crawled across its battered tail. The world didn't stop for suffering. The stars above remained silent. The universe watched, but offered no comfort. Only the distant flicker of a single house light. A final door. The 10th. The door creaked open slowly, uncertainly. A figure stood behind it, wrapped in a robe, eyes narrowed, hand on the knob but not shaking. Jamie, solitary by nature, had seen strange things on the news but never expected anything like this. In the faint glow of the porch light, the form before them looked less like a monster and more like a creature brought to the brink. Its chest rose in shallow motions. One eye, bloodshot and weary, met theirs. No growl. No threat. Just pain. Instinct overruled reason. Jamie stepped forward and crouched beside the beast, careful not to startle it. Up close, it smelled of ozone, iron, and burning metal. The skin under the scales was cracked and fever-hot. The wounds were deep, some cauterized by the crash, others still oozing. Without thinking, Jamie whispered softly, as if addressing a dying animal. "Hold on." The creature blinked slowly, as though processing the tone rather than the words. Jamie fetched water first, no idea if the creature drank it, but it lapped some up weakly. Then came gauze, antiseptic, a few old medical supplies left from another life. The wing was unsalvageable for now, but the torn muscles around the shoulder could be wrapped. Jamie hesitated only briefly before applying pressure to a deep puncture near the ribs. The dragon flinched, but didn't lash out. Its tail curled tighter around itself, but it let the treatment continue. There was no plan. No logic in dragging something this large into the barn. But Jamie couldn't leave it there. Every second in the open risked it being seen by someone less willing to help. The weight was immense, but with enough rope, brute effort, and the dragon's minor cooperation, it was done. The barn doors closed behind them, locking out the world. Inside, Jamie worked. Strips of cloth reinforced with duct tape, disinfectant swabbed over exposed nerves, broken tech removed piece by piece from scorched flesh. Some components twitched with static. Jamie tossed them aside. Others blinked dimly, then died. The creature remained alert, barely, occasionally shifting its head to follow the human's movements. It winced once when Jamie accidentally pressed too hard. Then, surprisingly, it extended a clawed digit slowly, stopping inches from Jamie's hand. The gesture lingered. An offering of trust. Night passed without rest. Jamie didn't sleep. The creature barely moved, but the labored breathing gradually steadied. A crude drip fashioned from old tubing and mineral solution fed into the least damaged part of its arm. Jamie didn't know if it would help. Still, it was something. Morning brought danger. Distant sounds, helicopters, engines, alert sirens, signaled a tightening net. Someone had seen something. Rumors online had exploded overnight. Blurry images, out-of-context videos, grainy photos from the man who'd taken the snapshot at the 9th door. Words like threat, biohazard, and containment protocol spread rapidly. Jamie didn't panic. Just moved faster. Boarded windows, prepared emergency exits, gathered food and water. The dragon watched, eyes following every movement, slowly understanding. It tried to rise once, collapsed again, then looked at Jamie and let out a soft rumble. Not aggression, not warning. Communication. Jamie nodded without needing to understand. "You're not alone anymore." By afternoon, the creature attempted to stand. With Jamie's help, it got halfway up before collapsing again. Its breathing rattled less. Color returned to patches of its body. Energy flickered in its embedded veins, like distant sparks in fading circuitry. Jamie sat beside it and offered a few words of comfort, despite knowing they couldn't be understood. The tone mattered more than language. As the sun dipped, headlights swept across the outer road. A convoy passed, slow and deliberate. Government, military, or something in between. Jamie didn't react. They wouldn't knock yet. Not until they were sure. Time was short, but not gone. That night, the dragon shifted again. It nudged Jamie's side with the tip of its nose. Then it tilted its head upward, toward the loft window, where stars could be seen through the cracked wood. For a moment, its expression softened. Not pain, not fear, recognition. Something in the sky reminded it of home. Jamie followed its gaze, silent. They sat together in the barn, a human and something once called a monster, bound not by words, but by the simple truth that compassion was stronger than fear. No questions asked, no promises made. Just presence. Outside, the world hunted a threat. Inside, something broken had begun to heal. News spread faster than anyone could contain it. Blurred footage from a dashboard camera, distorted audio, distant howling, it was enough. Networks speculated, authorities denied comment, and theories swirled online. The public called it a hoax, a creature, a failed experiment. Few believed it was suffering. Most assumed it was dangerous. Jamie watched quietly as black vans rolled past the outskirts. Communication jammers knocked out cell signals. Helicopters traced slow, silent circles overhead. The message was clear: something had landed, and the government wanted it found. No one mentioned help. No one mentioned understanding. Inside the barn, the dragon stirred. It was stronger now, not fully healed, but no longer on the edge of death. The wounds had closed enough to move. Its gaze sharpened, breath evened. Though it still could not speak, it responded to gestures, imitated Jamie's actions, and displayed curiosity rather than fear. It mimicked a nod, tried to understand, hands raised in reassurance. Its intelligence became impossible to deny. Jamie understood that time was running out. They began to move with purpose. Food was rationed, water stored, alternate exits cleared. A small radio picked up garbled transmissions, military chatter, encrypted orders. The dragon listened too, recognizing tension even if the words were alien. A drone appeared just after dawn, hovering low, scanning fields. Jamie rushed to cover windows, too late to stop it from spotting movement. It flew off without confrontation, but the warning was obvious. Something was coming. Later that day, agents arrived at the property line. Unmarked black uniforms, earpieces, serious expressions. They knocked gently. Jamie answered, calm, collected. No denial, just measured answers. Nothing unusual here. No strange sightings. Just me. Their eyes scanned the space behind, but found no cause. Not yet. Inside, the dragon waited in silence. Hidden beneath tarp and timber, it did not make a sound. Its chest rose in stillness, body pressed against the earth, trusting Jamie not to betray it. After they left, Jamie didn't panic. They spoke to the dragon, tone even, actions deliberate. The dragon, in turn, stayed alert. It began to anticipate Jamie's movements, fetching cloth before being asked, shifting to make space during cleaning, reaching to help carry small loads despite its injuries. The bond deepened, rooted in quiet cooperation. Later that night, a low alarm sounded. Someone had breached the outer edge of the land. Armed figures moved under cover of darkness. Jamie didn't run. Instead, they set up lights in the barn, gathered medical documents, and prepared the small camcorder that had recorded the dragon's gestures. When the knock came again, Jamie answered once more. This time, the conversation was different. Less casual, more forceful. Demands wrapped in polite language. A suggestion to relocate for safety. Jamie declined. Politely, firmly. The officers did not press further that evening. But their vehicles remained parked down the road. Drones increased. Footsteps were heard at the edge of fields. A line had been drawn, invisible yet growing more real with every hour. The dragon remained hidden, but it watched Jamie more closely now. It understood the threat. For the first time, it made a choice unprompted. It approached Jamie and pressed its forehead lightly against their shoulder. A gesture not born of instinct, but something more. Recognition. gratitude. Later that night, the dragon crawled from hiding on its own. It pointed at the stars, then at its chest. Then it pointed to Jamie. Jamie sat in silence. No words were needed. The message was clear. It had found its 10th door. It had found something it had never been given before, acceptance without condition. And outside, the world narrowed in. Floodlights flickered in the distance. Vehicle engines hummed low. The dragon retreated back into shadow, one last look at Jamie before settling into stillness. It was not afraid. It was ready. Whatever happened next, it would not run. Not because it could not, but because someone had finally stood between it and a threat, not with weapons, but with care. And for that, it would endure. The night storm broke just before the first move. Thunder rolled low, echoing across the hills as rain fell in cold sheets. Winds whipped through broken fences and rattled roof panels. In the chaos, the agents advanced quietly, dressed in wet black, rifles drawn, vision narrowed. They had been ordered to secure an unknown entity. No engagement unless provoked. No risk to civilians. Secure and isolate. That was the language used. Inside, the dragon stirred. Its body had repaired more than Jamie expected. The dull blue glow along its rib cage returned, pulsing slow, synchronized with its breath. The once burned tissue had toughened, bruises faded. It stood taller now, balanced better. The wing still hung limp, but the other half of it stretched, catching some strength. Jamie handed it a satchel of tools and nutrient packs salvaged from crash remnants. The dragon accepted it without hesitation. There was no spoken plan, but both understood the stakes. Jamie unlocked the cellar beneath the barn, old storm shelter no one used in years. Damp, narrow, and silent. The dragon descended without noise, crouching low, movements exact. Jamie stayed above, watching from the window as shapes moved through the trees. Lights flickered through the storm. Then a scream broke through the wind. Not fear. Pain. Jamie rushed out to see a child caught in the creek, water risen too high, pulling fast. A misstep, a misjudged game in the rain. The dragon heard it too. It moved without waiting, shouldering open the barn's back wall with its good side, ignoring the warning systems that pinged to life. It leapt forward, body braced against the wind, claws digging through mud. Before Jamie could react, it plunged into the rushing current, coiling around the child like a living barricade. The child clung to its spine, crying, but safe. With effort, the dragon pulled itself out, dragging them both to solid ground. Sirens howled nearby. Flashlights landed on the scene. Dozens of boots charged forward, orders shouted into radios. But no one fired. Everyone saw the same thing, a being shielding a child, making no threat, already backing away with exhaustion in its eyes. Someone lowered their weapon first. Then another. The child was taken gently, unharmed. Medical teams arrived minutes later, but the dragon was already gone, vanished into the nearby woods. Jamie didn't follow. They didn't need to. Over the next 2 days, the tone shifted. Media coverage changed from monster panic to miracle rescue. Leaked footage from that night aired repeatedly. Specialists analyzed behavior. Body language experts declared intelligence. A quiet statement was released by an international council. Further observation required. Not hostile. Contained by choice. Jamie was never identified in the reports. They watched it all from a distance, silent, unreadable. The barn was never searched again. Agents stopped coming. 3 weeks later, on a quiet morning, the wind returned. Not strong. Gentle. Familiar. Jamie stepped outside, drawn by instinct. In the clearing, it stood again, taller, whole, light restored across its entire form. No weapons. No wounds. No plea for shelter. Only a gift. It lowered its head and extended a crystal, small, glowing softly. Jamie took it. Warm to the touch, humming faintly. The dragon gestured at the ground. With care, Jamie planted it beneath the old tree. Instantly, the light spread through the soil, blooming into color. The dragon nodded, content. It turned to leave, but paused. It looked back once more. Then, it pressed a claw into the dirt, tracing a symbol. 3 lines intersecting at a center point. Jamie memorized it, not knowing its meaning, only knowing it mattered. Then the dragon lifted itself into the sky. One wing strong, the other still stiff, but it managed. Wind caught it, carried it up through the thinning clouds. No fanfare. No celebration. Just a quiet farewell. Weeks passed. Then months. Scientists studied the symbol, debated the crystal's properties, failed to replicate its glow. Jamie remained distant, not giving interviews. But a message was received by a deep space satellite months later, transmitted in an unknown frequency. Translated, it read, "Not all doors open. But when one does, it changes everything." The world changed after that. Slowly, but permanently. Not because of power. Because someone answered a knock.